The views expressed in this interview are not the views of Grieving Our Babies podcast. I'm the lovely co host, Janice Hodges Hawkins. Enjoy the show.
Welcome everybody to Grieving Our Babies podcast. I'm the host that cares the most, Calvin Hawkins. This is the space where you can come and tell your story, your pain, your journey through grief. Tonight's guest, Steve. How you doing tonight?
It was interesting to be here. I'm just not sure how to say a lot of things. I'm not wanting to offend anybody. It's been hard. My wife in particular, at least once a week or better, breaks down. So it's been rough.
Yeah, people come on here and, they have a hard time because it's Grieving Our Babies podcast. So if you need to cry, cry. We all cry. I know you seen me and my wife do our podcast together and it had some tears in there, but we all here to help each other. Where you originally from?
I'm originally from Michigan City. I've been here basically all my life. Born in 52. I'm 73 years old, or 72 years old.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I used to be a couple different kinds of positions. Now I'm basically retired other than I do HR block during tax season. But before that, I was a maintenance carpenter for the school system, and then I managed restaurants and grocery stores all through northern Indiana for McDonald's, Al's, Wendy's, plazas on the toll road. I managed New Broccoli Plaza there, the whole plaza, everything from gift shop operations to salad bar and restaurant. Did everything there.
So you did a lot within your 73 years.
Yes, I have. It is busy. I kept busy.
How many kids do you have?
My wife and I have 3 kids. I have a son that just got out of the Navy last year from my previous marriage.
Okay. But out of the 3 kids today, we're here to talk about your son, Kevin, right?
Yes.
When I was doing my research, Kevin was born October 1st, so yesterday was his birthday.
That's correct.
Did y'all do anything like special for his birthday?
Yes, we had he used to love Italian beef. That was always what he wanted on his birthday. So we made homemade Italian beef and a chocolate cake, and that's how we remember him by.
And I see Kevin graduated from Michigan City High School in 2000.
Yes.
Did he graduate with honors?
Yeah, he was on the honors program. He got a full ride to Valpo University and graduated from Valpo University.
And I see he went to Valpo and he got a bachelor degree in science.
Yes. And he's part of a special program there that he worked off on the side that they had him do some kind of research work with mathematics and stuff like that. Like I said, he was very good at that kind of stuff. Using his brain. I don't know where he got all that intelligence from, but I don't think it was from me.
I also see that he was computer science. He liked Japanese culture, and he also started drawing and being an artist doing animation.
Yes, he was doing very good. At the time of his passing, he had quite a few. He'd make stuff for like his nieces. I call my granddaughters, but our nieces. And he'd do stuff, Disney stuff for them. Then he'd make characters from anime pictures for people, and he had quite a bit. He had a pretty good following of people that wanted his stuff done. So everybody wanted copies of everything when he was done with that kind of stuff.
I see. He was also a state champion in chess also.
Yes, that was good, proud achievement. I think that's one of the things that helped him get in Valpo. I think they wanted him on the chess team.
Did you ever play him?
Yeah, I taught him how to play. It's a game that I like playing, so we like to play. And I was one of those traveling parents that we'd go on tournaments together. We'd a couple times I'd get a school bus, and one of the rides was one of the big tournaments down in Tennessee. We had they had Bobby Fischer, who was a world champion at one time. He was there sponsoring it. One thing I was surprised, that guy is not a very big guy. He's a little small dude.
But also, like, since he was the state champion and you said you played against him, how many times did you win?
After a while, it wasn't very much.
And see, Kevin also worked as a software tech for Michigan City High School also, right? And a photographer.
Yes, he's a very good photographer. He did a lot of beach and wildlife and still things like that. He liked that. And like I said, he had some very nice pictures where when he put them on, I guess what you say, YouTube or wherever he post them at, LaPorte County Tourist Bill contacted him and wanted permission to use some of his stuff for advertising to promote LaPorte County, and so he did that. So we're proud that he did all that, and he tried a little bit of everything. That he was not afraid to do everything. He liked hiking. He tried snowboarding, doing a motorcycle. I mean, he did a little bit. He did a little bit of everything. He no challenge was too much for him to try. Like I said, he did speak Japanese because he minored in Japanese. I think he was studying towards the last few years. I think he even knew some Russian because he watched Russian movies and language, and he was varied as far as his education. He would study all kinds of different stuff. I think he got that from me because I'm a book reader. I just devour everything. I just like wanting to know stuff. So that was something that he was very good at, was doing different things, reading up and finding out what the world is and how it pertained to him. He was very, very, I don't know how to explain it. He was just one of those guys that he just wanted to know things and he wasn't afraid to try it.
So he's really like adventurous and free spirit, because I see he built up him a very strong resume.
He was, and he wasn't afraid to go off by himself. He went to Costa Rica once by him, just go around, different places, explore and stuff like that. So he enjoyed it.
Yeah, I see. Like that's an awesome portfolio that he has. Okay, and Kevin did all this stuff in computer science, Japanese culture, animation, and state champion in chess. And I see you say you had 3 kids and his birthday and stuff was yesterday. But saying in November 2021, what happened? What brought you in here to talk about Kevin?
Okay, well, what happened the night before, we always considered that even though the official date of death was, as far as the coroner, because it was the 13th, we considered the 12th his day of passing. What happened that day, he had come home early, because at the time I'm not doing any work, so he came home early, and I said, what's wrong? He said, I had a little headache, so he'd come home, and that, so I said, we could have pizza later tonight. So I said, okay, and asked how things are going. That's one thing I have to say about Kevin. No matter what time, whenever I'd get off work or that, we made a point of always being together. We'd make sure I said goodbye to him, even though I didn't have to be up. I could have stayed and slept in all the time, but I got up to make sure that him and my wife, because me and my wife get up early to exercise, and we made sure he'd gone. So anyway, that night we had pizza. Me and my wife were downstairs. We're watching some movie or something like that, and he comes downstairs to get a soda out of the fridge, and he started heading back upstairs. And my wife says, "Hey, Kevin, how did you like the pizza?" And comes back down. And he says, "Well, it was free. And if you knew my boy, food and free." I mean, so we had a chuckle. That was our, and we're laughing. We said, "Yeah, that's our Kevin." So he went up. So he went upstairs to go to bed early. It's about between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and we didn't know it at that time. He probably passed away minutes right after he talked to us. We didn't find him until the next day. We got up at 8:30 in the morning, and we saw that he was still in the bedroom. We figured, well, he wasn't feeling good. He was there, so we went to Valparaiso to do some shopping. We come back just around noon. We saw his blinds were closed. We said, no, that's not like Kevin. So Cheryl said, I'll go check on him while I was bringing stuff in from the car. And next thing, the yell. She comes screaming, "Kevin's dead, Kevin's dead." And I'll never forget, and I dropped everything. I went in there, and he's in his chair in front of his computer, and he had his pajamas next to him, so you could tell he was getting ready to put his pajamas on, and he was out, spread out, with his hands out and his back in the chair, and rigor mortis had already set in, so he had already passed. So at least from what we, at that time we weren't sure what happened, but I sort of guessed aneurysm was something that came to my mind. So anyway, by the time I called 911, and any other time, we're 4 blocks away from Michiana Shores Fire Department. Any other time we had an emergency when my mother-in-law lived with us, they came from there. Now this time, because my backyard starts Springfield Township, the last part of Indiana, it's unincorporated. Now this time, they actually said in Springfield Township. They didn't know where it was at. It took them a half hour to get there. So we had that weighing on us. So we called, meanwhile, I called his brothers up. The youngest one lived in Evansville with his partner, and told them. And then the other son that works as assistant general manager for Menards, and he was in Missouri at the time, comes up, your brother's passed, and that. So I'm calling that up. My wife proceeds to call one of her nieces up. She wouldn't call her sister, and that there's a reason for that. Before Kevin passed away, just before his 40th birthday, we saw that he was like in some kind of distress, and we said, Kevin, what's wrong? And then that's when he told us about being molested by my brother-in-law that's married to my wife's sister. So anyway, we said, well, we're never going to deal with them again. We're not going to have them around anymore. So that's why my wife called the niece. So when she called Stephanie up, that was the one niece that she called. She said, Stephanie, I got some bad news. Well, right away, because there's 9 years age difference between my wife. Stephanie says, what, Uncle Steve passed away? She said, no, your cousin Kevin passed away. And she had her phone on speakerphone with her oldest boy with her. And my wife Cheryl said, no, that's not all of it, Stephanie. Your parents are not invited. Your mom may come to the funeral, but your dad is not invited. And the reason your dad is not invited, he molested your cousin. And all of a sudden her son says, oh, does that mean my grandpa's a homosexual? And it just and so that's where it went downhill from there. So anyway, the police finally came. We had a trainee coroner come, the assistant coroner came. Finally, the ambulance came, the first responders finally came. This is after a half hour. We had a couple county officers, and naturally, being a young person, they had to do a death investigation. They could go through his room and everything, and they're looking for drugs or suicide, all that. That's their job. All they found was a bottle of Excedrin, so it was crazy. And the thing is that Friday before he passed away, and Saturday that we found him, he had just told me that he came because he was having trouble in the back of his neck. He felt maybe the pillows were wrong, so he had just ordered brand new pillows. So which is another story that's going to down a little further. So anyway, they're checking. Then the police officers asked me, has there been anything going on? And I reported that he let us know just a few weeks ago that he'd been molested, and I gave him the name and told him who it was and everything, and that. So they put it in the report. And so next, when they finally took Kevin out and everything, like I said, he was already had rigor mortis, and he was everything stiff and everything. We said our goodbyes to him at that time, but we're like, me and my wife are stunned. We just, you don't believe it. You just, he's there. So anyway, next day the coroner calls and say it was a brain aneurysm, and they had a name for it. I'm not very good at pronouncing, but they have some kind of hemorrhage. They call it a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage, and I guess it's something that things like stress or could be high blood pressure. We don't know. He always was healthy, so we didn't. He never went to a doctor as far as to find out if he had high blood pressure or anything. We didn't know. Things like what he held back for 30 years in his head about being molested, we feel like contribute to his death. And so anyway, family started coming in. Like I said, I called my side, and uh, like I said, family started coming in and had things together. And needless to say, when some of my wife's family came in, just the nieces, the two nieces came, and they did bring their mother and that. And then we talked to my wife's brother, because the one niece that Stephanie called my wife's brother Doug, and said, "This is what Cheryl said, my Aunt Cheryl said about Kevin. Do you think that's true?" He says, "Yeah, Kevin would be one to lie." Well, come to find out, when we talked with her brother Doug, he told us the whole story. He says, we never felt comfortable about Mark anyway. He made passes at my wife. He once asked my mother if she'd like to have a threesome with her daughter and him. We never felt comfortable about the guy. We didn't know he was a child molester too.
So he was doing this. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you this.
Yeah.
So he was molesting Kevin for 30 years.
Not the whole 30 years when he was young, but Kevin held it in for 30 years. Come to find out from my brother Doug, because there's something to do with this goofy church that they were in. For some reason, he had to do some kind of confession, because this guy would stir trouble, accusing people of things that he was doing. And for some reason, he got caught. For some reason, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, is part of the elder of the church. He had to confess to my brother. Come to find out, he molested his own daughters, his own grandson, and various other people. Nobody ever put this guy in jail.
So where is he at now?
He's still out. He's still out there. So anyway, a police psychiatrist therapist came in next day, it was on Sunday or Monday morning, and told us that because the statute of limitations was done with, because my son was over age 31, that the statute of limitations in Indiana for those kind of crimes is done with. So one of the things my wife promised Kevin that we'd be his voice, and that's what I'm being right now. I'm not afraid to tell anybody. We talk to people, or I do anyway. My wife has a hard time, but I'm not afraid. We made sure the family members knew. Come to find out that this had been, my brother-in-law, they knew about this. They didn't know about Kevin, but they knew about the other people. And we didn't find out that, we figured that they knew this for at least anywhere between 10, 15 years at least. But nobody ever told us. We would never let this guy in our house if we had known this. But so that's why we don't have any relationship with the family, her side of the family at all. In fact, we were surprised this Sunday, her brother, first time since the funeral, actually contacted my wife. But as far as the nieces and nephews and her sister, we use a different name for her husband. Let's just say AH for short. But that's what we don't have any communication. So we figured some of that. I mean, and the worst part about it is my wife blames herself for my son Kevin dying, because she says, "I'm sorry that I had a bad family that was so evil that he suffered through this." And that's part of the problem, is she blames herself for Kevin's death, that that's on his mind. So it's really hard.
She can't do that, Steve, because y'all didn't know that man was running around there doing all this stuff.
He was a pervert. We didn't know he did kids too. And my only thing I do is reassure that we didn't know anything. It was nothing that she did. Nothing. We didn't know about that. We knew about him trying to hit on females and stuff like that. We knew that kind of stuff. We didn't know that he was doing kids too. And it didn't matter if it was male, female, or whatever. But like I said, this is part of the problem over these last, it could be 3 years this November, that I'd say at least once a week that she breaks down pretty good. We have a good cry, or she does, and trying to back her up, and she knows logically that it's not her fault. It's like, okay, what happened if I could have come to a doctor? Maybe they would have found that. That's the only way they would have found the aneurysm. He could have been in the Mayo Clinic and be next to a surgeon, and that's how fast they hit him. They said that's how fast they said it hit him. There would have been no saving him. About the only way they could have found it is if they would have done a CAT scan or something. So there was nothing, but she still feels guilt about his passing away. So it's been hard. It's a lot of anger, especially on my part, because of this guy.
Is your sister-in-law, is she still with him?
Yeah, she stayed married to him. She's got her own issues as far as drug and alcohol herself, where she steals prescription drugs. She got caught doing that. So she's got a lot of issues. So I guess they're a perfect pair, I guess. But we haven't him. I haven't seen in years because we had stopped seeing him before that. But when we found out that what he did to our boy, we made all vow not to have anything to do with him at all. And her sister's last time we saw her was the day of the funeral. Was the last time we saw her. But the nieces, my other two sons, got into it with their cousins because they got, like I said, the Stephanie. Then they got another daughter named Sarah. They said something derogatory about our son Kevin. My two sons got into it with them. They said something about, well, it's just alleged what our father did to him, and my boys led into their cousins. They said there's nothing alleged. Our brother didn't lie because the brothers are real close. And the last words from my one son to the one niece was, "Don't leave your daughter alone with your dad." And that was the last words that was said in between the family.
I know you said that he did that to Kevin, and like he was a pervert and tried to get threesomes and everything else. But did he do anything to anybody else in the family, or no? Or you don't know?
We don't know for sure. We know he did at least two of his daughters. We know that. We know he did the one grandson. But nobody ever pressed any charges. By the time like the granddaughters came an issue, I know the one granddaughter that we told them about that Stephanie about the death. We know that she had gone under therapy and stuff like that for a while. She wouldn't let her grandson. They wouldn't even visit their dad. So we know there was an issue, but nobody ever told us. We didn't live in the same town or anything. They live in Cowles, Indiana, so we weren't even in the same town with them. Which I'm glad we weren't. But all I know is that they hid this stuff. We knew there was something going on, but nobody ever told us any story. For like I said, when my wife's brother told us the whole story, what was going on, it just like me and my wife it made us sick.
How did he find out? Did Kevin talk to him about it?
No, we told him, and when we told him to describe what he did to Kevin and how he did it, he says, "Yeah, that's his MO." We go, "What do you mean MO?" And that's when he told us all about this other stuff. About him molesting his own daughters and all this other stuff and all the other trouble that he's caused with other people. So that's when we found out. We've heard stuff, but nobody say anything because we weren't part of their group. And this is the only thing that made me mad. I don't know if you saw that show 19 Kids and Counting, where that one brother molested his own sisters and then ended up getting married and having 6 kids and got caught using that. Was it Ashley Madison or somewhere at the porn site and looking at child porn stuff? And their solution was, let's go to church retreat, and that's their punishment. And then, well, that's part of the kind of church they're in. They just, all they have to do is pray it away. Well, I'm sorry, you can't pray it away.
No, that's evil. You can't pray that away. That's sick.
Yeah. So, like I said, me and my wife my wife especially still has a hard time. She's getting better about it, but it's still, every once in a while, all of a sudden she'll just start crying. Like, well, definitely yesterday she missed how much she misses him. And that's an everyday, one of our prayers at night. And then we pray one of the prayers that we love you, Kevin. We are your voice. Miss you terribly and always. And that's our prayer every night, that how much we miss him and everything. And like I said, some nights, days and stuff, it's worse. And this right now, this time of year, like I said, yesterday being his birthday, and then another couple weeks, less than 6 weeks coming up, be 3 years. This is very, very hard and depressing for her and stuff like that. It's very hard for her.
Have y'all got counseling together or something?
I've tried to get her counseling. I've had people come and talk with us and stuff like that. I've had a lot of people who've lost kids that have tried to come over and talk, and she appreciated that. And she's just like, but what happens with it's not so much that getting that kind of help. Part of the problem is that the regular people, like people that knew them and stuff like that, what happens when people forget about them and stuff like that? And I know that what happened, like with your daughter, I understand that, and I know it's part of it is like, you do stuff to keep their memory, and some people may think that's crazy what you do to keep their memory. We put up he's, like I said, some of the computer stuff that he had all these fancy keyboards and stuff. We got a display of the fancy keyboards, and some of those keyboards cost more than some computers. So like I said, he put a lot of money into it. Like I said, he was going to go doing what you're doing. Plus, I think he was getting ready to open up a business. Like I said, he was very secured. Some of the funny things about Kevin, though, this like when he secured our Wi-Fi at our home, you didn't have to worry about anybody ever breaking into our Wi-Fi. He used a whole paragraph from a Tom Clancy book that was at least 70 characters long, so you weren't going to break it. You were going to guess the password. Shortly before he passed away, we got it. I think we got it down under 25 to get it or so. But he is very secure. He had his own server. He had 2 mainframe computers. So, like I said, he was serious about what he was going to go into just before he passed away. We had one of his friends that does work for the government. We didn't want to know what was on his computers because we didn't have any passwords, obviously. We weren't going to get into it. And he said it was better for us. We ended up destroying the hard drives because it was easier to destroy the hard drives than it would have been to broke in. This guy from the government said, we figured as much as he encrypted stuff, it'd probably take us at least 3 months, 24/7, to try to break into his computer stuff. That's how secure. And then actually, my telephone that I got, this was his telephone. The only reason we got into this telephone, we did find something with different kinds of passwords or clues. So we took a clue on what this password would be, and for some reason the phone was connected to his Apple Watch and to one of his laptops, and that was the only way that we got into them without having to open things up. So we were able to get to a couple things. And then the Apple laptop needed a battery, so because it was heating up, because it was starting to warp. So we went to Mishawaka, South Bend, where they had the Apple store there. And it was funny, we took it in there, and all of a sudden, a couple days later, we're getting calls from Apple headquarters, we're getting calls from their tech department, we're getting calls from South Bend. What's going on? They said, you don't know what your son did with this computer. He says, we have to put our original parts back in. We'll give you the parts that he put in, but he found a way to improve our computer. We said we wish we would have known this guy before he passed away, because they were amazed, and he's done things like that before with other things. When he's like 14 years old, he took our first computer and he read a book on what they call this program, Linux program, and he tried to put that in on this computer that really didn't have enough memory to do that, and we ended up having to take the computer in to have it fixed. And these guys that did the computer says, he read a book and was doing this? I said, yeah. He says, well, the book don't tell some of the stuff behind. So this is kind of stuff that he did. It was sort of funny in a way that he did some of this stuff.
No, he was a genius.
Yeah. So so we have these kind of memories, and then, like I said, when you talk about boy and food, some of the things that'd be funny about watching him eat sometimes, like we have spaghetti and garlic bread, he'd pile the spaghetti on top of the garlic bread and eat it that way, and stuff like that. Or when we had hot dogs and beans, you know how beans got like the skin on them and stuff
Yes,
like
sir.
that. Well, if he didn't mind eating the beans, but if the skin was off, he wouldn't eat the skin. It wouldn't make any difference because you're eating the skin on, just little quirks like that. But he is hilarious. But he is so good with people. When he was at work, everybody talked about how respectful he was. A lot of these principals and teachers, we had the school system just was very nice to us when he passed away. Even though I had been retired from the school system at the time, at least 2 years after his passing, I had already retired for at least a couple of years. The superintendent called me up and said, we're taking care of the dinner and everything. We said, we'll take care of it. You're still family to us. And they were very good. Barbara Watkins was the superintendent, and she said, we're taking care of you. She said, you're still family to us, and stuff like that. But they said everybody respected him. In fact, one of the principals came to my wife not too long ago, a couple months ago. Her and another principal were talking about how they missed Kevin. They said he was so good with people and teachers and stuff. He was just respectful of people. That doesn't mean that when he was doing his gaming that he had a partner who wasn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, that he didn't say a word or two. But he was very good with his nieces. They loved him. He was teaching the one niece how to play chess and everything. So I mean, he was very respectful and stuff like that. And it's crazy. And he had a cat that he loved, Adonis was his cat. And there's some crazy things that me and my wife both saw him in our dreams and stuff. Like a week after he passed away, or that we buried him, me and my wife were downstairs. She's laying on the sofa, and she fell asleep. I was fell asleep in my recliner, and all of a sudden I wake up and say, "Oh, honey, let's go to bed." But when I said that, that woke her up. She said, "I just saw talk with Kevin." I said, "What did he?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "He was just down here, and he come down here, and I'd say, I said, Kevin, you're dead." And he says, "I know." He says, "What happened?" She says, "A brain aneurysm." He goes, "Oh," and then it happened to wake her up. So that was really strange. And then the other time, she always worried, if he was okay. And one, he came to her in a dream or whatever and said, "Mom, I'm okay." In that. Well, I had a couple of dreams with him too, where he's with him and his brothers and stuff, and I don't know what we're doing, but we're out in the driveway and stuff, and so we were just together and just talking, but I can't remember what it was. Then the other dream last dream I had of him, was, okay, like I said, he had Adonis's cat, and he had this cat for years. Well, just about a year ago, Adonis, we had to put him down because he was very sick. Well, my dream, he came in my dream with me and my wife, we're at a table with Adonis, and Kevin comes in and says something to us and says, "Okay, Adonis," and he picks up Adonis, "It's time for us to go." And that's how we figured that his cat was it happened with him. So I don't know if you believe that stuff or not, but it just. And then our youngest granddaughter, she had a connection with the cat and him too. One time when she was sitting with the cat, she said, she calls her dad. She said, "Dad, Adonis is very sad." And she says, "What are you talking about, Avery?" She says, "He's missing Kevin, and I miss Kevin too." It's like something about. She's only 5 years old at that time, and she says something about. To me, I think they said kids somehow have connections, and we believe that. Also, out of the blue, she asked if she wanted to play violin. Well, he was just teaching himself how to play violin before he passed away, and she didn't know that. But out of the blue, she says she wants to play violin. So, like I said, just we still have some kind of connection with him, but other than being hard about this stuff with this uncle and stuff like that molested him and stuff like that, my wife, like I said, has a very hard time with this. And like I said, if she was here, she'd probably be completely broken down. Like I said, I'm on the verge, but if she was here, that she'd break down, and she'd be trying to blame herself. Like I said, logically she knows that it's not her fault, but this is what's went on, and that's why we advocate against child molesters and stuff like that. You don't know. You never know. Somebody say, "Oh, that guy's a nice guy." You don't know what goes behind closed doors. So that's why we advocate for our son Kevin about watching out for people. If something don't seem right, trust your instincts. We had an instinct about this guy, but we didn't know he was doing kids. We knew he was hitting on women and stuff like that, but we didn't know he was doing kids too.
And your other sons, how are they doing? Because I know you said, Steve, that your wife is not doing well, but brother, I can tell that you hurting also. And then I'm gonna tell you what, like about me, it's okay to not be okay. Yeah. I mean, like yesterday I was having a problem in here also. Yeah. So his
brothers were real close to him.
Okay.
I mean, when let his brothers know what happened, they backed him up 100%. And they said, "You tell Mom and Dad?" He said, "No." And then after he talked with me and my wife, him and his brothers, they got together and he said, "No, Mom and Dad backed me up more than 100%. We're not going to deal with that side of the family anymore." And then all of a sudden, when he passed away, we've been keeping our promise. I know some people will say, in your case, okay, they may forgive the person who injured their child and stuff like that. I'm sorry, God may forgive, but I am not at this time. I can't. My wife won't either.
Yeah, y'all have to do that on your own time. Can't nobody make y'all forgive him, and then they still, it's like they condoning it.
And the thing is, he's never owned up to it. Even his wife said something to him. We found this out from her brother Doug. Asked her husband, "How could you do this?" And his excuse was because his dad did it to him, supposedly, allegedly, that it was okay for him to do it to other people. Wait a minute, you're a grown adult. That's a decision you can make on your own. Just because it happened to you doesn't mean that you have to do it to somebody else. Our son didn't do it to anybody else when he got it done to him. So that was his rationale, because his dad did to him. It's okay for him to do it to other people.
No, that's just an excuse, and that's sick.
Yeah, and that's what my wife's brother told him. He said, and I guess a few more words got exchanged, and this other brother-in-law that married to my wife's sister, he just looked at my brother-in-law Doug, says, "What, you think I'm a monster?" And Doug says, "Well, you said it, not me," and that was the end of their conversation. So the thing is, but he's never admitted to anybody or taken ownership of what he's done. And how can you forgive somebody who won't even admit that they did it or take ownership that, even though we know they did, and he's done it to other people. I'm sorry, we can't forgive.
And there's a statute of limitation on this, and all this
statute of limitations on it. I looked it all up, and that's what the police person that came over to our house, that the counselor or the psychiatrist, therapist person that came over to talk with us, and let us talk about it with us.
There shouldn't be no statute of limitation on this.
Well, I agree. Well, what do you think happened like with some of these states like New York, California, where they temporarily lift off the statute of limitations on the rape and all that stuff? Well, how do you think that the ex-president got all of a sudden all these lawsuits, or that Weinstein over in California, because they temporarily took the statute of limitations off, and they let these people go back as far as they could go. And that's what happened to these states when they take the statute of limitations. But we told us because there's statute of limitations, we can't do anything about it.
And that's your wife's sister.
Her husband, yeah.
How does that put a strain on the sister, your wife? And
we don't communicate with her either, because of her. Like I said, when I told her about stealing prescription drugs, my wife's mom, we took care of my wife's mother, and nobody else in the family. All the Christian people on that side of the family wouldn't take my mother-in-law in. We took her in, and my boys gave up bedrooms. I had to build an extra bathroom. And at the year that my mother-in-law moved in, that's when I had all three of my boys in college. It was an expensive year. Yeah, but no, because her mom was on very heavy doses of morphine, all kinds of. She come in and stole drugs. I used to have back problems. She stole those drugs. Our son Kevin had oral surgery, and he had some stuff. She stole that. She stole from us. Went through our dresser and stole. So that's why that's in something else. She would never fessed up. She admitted she took my drugs, but she wouldn't admit to taking all the other stuff. And that's something else my wife can't stand. Don't lie. We can't. Don't lie. Don't lie to us. And so that's another reason why when we cut off, that we haven't anything to do with her sister or her husband, because, like I said, they both got their problems, and like I said, God may forgive, but right this time I don't.
No, you have to do that on your own time, and this right here is very hurtful and shocking. And this young man has built this portfolio up, and he had a lot of things going for him.
Yeah, he was such a good person. He was really a good person. He got people, like I said, he was respectful. He was kind to people. He went out of his way to do things for people and stuff. And he did. He gave a lot of love to people and stuff like that. And we'll never forget that good side of him. The fun side, the funny things he would do and stuff like that. Like I said, the funny way he'd eat food, or like I said, typical boy. And like I used to do paint houses too, and that's what put him through college too. I mean, he didn't hesitate to help paint houses. Even after he got out of college, out of Valpo, he still helped me paint and stuff like that. So he wasn't afraid to work both physically and use the brain. He was a good son.
And after all that stuff that he was going through, he still was a good kid.
Yeah.
Holding that pressure in by himself, and then maybe he didn't know how to come and tell you, because he probably didn't want you to get in trouble and stuff. Because I know as males, we don't want to do something to somebody.
Well, I tell you what, it's a good thing that I'm not a gun owner. It's probably a good thing that I'm not a gun owner. But I tell you what, when we have talked about this with other people, and I've told people, I've had some offers, and some people said, "Where does this guy live?" I said, "No, let not go there." But I've had people want to do something. I says, "No." A lot of people say, "Well, you're the better man than I am not to do anything." I said, "Believe me, it's not worth it, because we got our granddaughters still. That's the one thing I think that keeps my wife going. We got our granddaughters, and our other sons to be with and everything, and want to raise and help be with. In fact, during the summers, that's where we take off. When my wife just works part-time during the school year, after school ends, then she's off for the summer. We go to, well, this year it's been Iowa to be with the granddaughters all summer long.
And maybe he couldn't tell y'all because you know how it is with a woman, they'll believe it, and then sometimes for a male, if something like that happens, they maybe won't believe it.
He's scared of this guy. This guy, if you knew this guy, he's a pretty good-sized guy.
Okay.
Radical right. I mean, gun. My son was absolutely terrified of this guy. I mean, this guy was one of those far-right ones. I mean, believe in gun and stuff and wasn't afraid to use. And my son, even after he told us, we said, do you want to do something about it or do it? He says, no, I don't want anything involved with him. I mean, guy, you know, my uncle, you know, scares the hell out of me still. I says, well, yeah, because I understand that because he likes shooting things.
Also, he threatened him not to say nothing.
More than likely, Kevin wouldn't go in a whole lot of detail other than how it happened and the way it happened. And like I said, when we told my wife's brother about it, he says, yeah, that's his MO. And that's when we got really peeled. It was like, wait a minute, I mean, you guys knew about this and nobody said nothing? We never allowed him in the house if we hadn't known that.
And how long has he been around your family or been in the family married to your sister-in-law?
40-some years. Well, at least me and my wife been married 43, almost 44. And her sister's a year older, so he married her sister a year before us. So he's been married. He's been in the family for about at least 44 years, almost 45.
Y'all don't have any younger kids around him anymore, do they? Or y'all don't know because y'all don't deal with them no more? We don't deal with.
Well, we know that my nieces have younger kids. The youngest niece is only around just a little over 30-ish, early 30s. And we know that she has at least one granddaughter that. We know that before we stop seeing them. And I don't know if she has any more kids. We don't deal with them. And I know my boys don't. Like I said, my boys got into a heated discussion with their cousins. And like I said, the parting words. Like I said, my one son Nick, that works for Menards in Iowa, that told the youngest one. He says when she said, "Oh, you don't want to see us anymore," he says, "You got that right." He says, "Oh, I'm gonna give you one word of advice: don't let your daughter be alone with your dad." And that was the last thing he said to him. So there's nothing spoken between that part of the family. And like I said, out of the blue, just a couple of days ago, my wife's brother, first time since the funeral, that he actually contacted my wife, and we're just like, why now? We don't understand. He wants to talk to my wife alone.
Alone?
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust that.
Yeah. So we don't know what's going to go on with that part there.
So she agreed to see him?
She don't know yet. She says, no, I'm not, because her brother wanted her to go over to his house. She says, well, if you got your wife there, why can't I bring my husband? So she's if you want to meet someplace where we are alone, she said, that's fine, but I'm not going to your, she told him, I'm not going to your house. And then out of the blue, he invited us, you want to come over for Thanksgiving. You had to know her brother. Her brother never invites anybody to do anything. In fact, the joke about him is that he don't call anybody unless he wants something. so that's the first thing I said. I'm sorry, honey. I was thinking about this last night. I said, why was your brother calling? Because did he ask for something? She says, well, no, not yet. I said, sorry, your brother's reputation precedes him. If you don't never call unless he wants something.
And you see that iPhone you got over there, y'all should just FaceTime him together.
But that like I said, that part there is hard, and I don't know what else to say. My wife was hoping that I'd be able to talk, and she didn't know what to say. And like I said, it's just we have our days. I have my days where I break down and cry, but I think I hold it in a little bit more than my wife. But guess I'm trying to be strong for her because, like I said, our firstborn son, and it was hard for her. And then, like I said, her thinking that she could have done something, either with give him to a doctor or she could have protected him from the family. It's nothing, tell her it's not, that it's nothing that she did. We didn't know about this guy doing kids too. We just didn't know.
Yeah, she can't blame herself for that. Y'all didn't know that. Y'all didn't know what was going on, because if y'all knew that, y'all wouldn't have allowed that.
Yeah. So, like I said, that's I don't know, like I said, other than saying all the good things that he did and everything, the kind of son that he was, that's all I can say. That, like I said, trying to keep the good memories and everything and stuff like that. And we took a lot of videos, but my wife has a hard time watching the videos because of what we call him asshole. That's what we could call it. Is in some of the pictures, and I said you can't think of that part. You got to think of the part that has our son in there.
Yeah, watching the videos and stuff is hard, but it's them. It's him.
Yeah.
And I know it may hurt, but if that's the way that y'all can keep him alive, I would do it if I was y'all too, because I have some videos here, and then I watch them. I get down, but it's our babies. We miss them, so I understand and I know your pain. Even though our kids was passed away in two different scenarios, but we still lost our kids.
Yeah. Well, your wife was actually one of the first ones I told about what happened to Kevin. We had just got back to tax season that year. And one night we're working together. You and me and my wife were the closers, you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one night I started breaking down. Her and the manager were there, and I said, I started breaking down. I said, what's wrong? And that's when I told him about what happened to Kevin and stuff. I had to tell somebody else other than other family members, and that's when we started advocating about other people, telling other people, and letting other people know. Watch out for the kids and stuff like that. And if something, like I said, if you trust your feelings, if something don't feel right, and that, because we asked our other two sons if they felt if they have, and they said they don't recall, because he liked doing it to real young ones that would not keep the memory real well. And so but it was funny that my brother-in-law, he told his wife never let his kids be alone with them, and got mad the one time she let her one boy go, and he made sure that he talked to his son afterwards. Did anything happen? He said no, but he knew not to do it. Well, if he knew this guy, why didn't they let us know?
Yeah, why didn't he warn y'all?
Yeah. And so that's why I have a little hard feeling with the brother-in-law. When did they know of this? They may not know about our son, but when did they know about this, and why did they keep it a secret? Like I said, I told all the other family members, and they got pissed off. They got pissed off that I put a police report on them. They got pissed off because I told other family members what kind of guy he is. So I don't care. I don't care how pissed they get with me. They get mad with me all they want, but I don't want this guy touching another young kid. And that's why I said, that's why me and my wife, we when we went our prayer every night, when we say, we are your voice, and that's what we do, or at least that's what I do. My wife has a hard time. She does talk with some people. She talked to somebody today and told them what happened, and that was hard for her. She come home almost in tears, and I said, she said, I told so and so. I said, okay, that's all right. She says, you know how hard it is for me. She says, you seem to talk a little bit better than me. I says, I got a different attitude than you. And I said, and it's harder for her. Like I said, it was our firstborn. We look at Kevin was the one that brought us together. And I think, if anything, we're closer together now than we ever been. We're each other's advocate.
Yeah, there's some trying times that y'all been through and still going through. And y'all don't have to forgive him until y'all want to. Even if y'all never forgive him. The family is not, they're not with y'all because they mad at y'all before saying something. They mad because truth hurts, and then they also mad because they didn't want that to come out.
Yeah. Well, this would make me mad. Like, her brother first said, yeah, we can tell everybody, and then all of a sudden the day of the funeral, or at the funeral home the night before the visitation, he said, let's not tell anybody. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. So they stayed away from us. My wife's sister had her sponsor, and they went to this funeral home at 2 levels, and her and her daughters went to the bottom level, and she never came up once to our son's casket. But
that's guilt.
Yeah, but she was there with her sponsor.
AA sponsor?
AA, drug, whatever, some kind of, yeah. But she couldn't talk to her sister. My wife said, I'm not blaming you. Just told her, said, I'm not blaming you. I blame your husband. But then sometimes you get mad. She had to know, because all of a sudden she stopped letting our kids come over, because we'd watch their girls sometimes, so they could go out, and they watch our boys, so we'd go out. All of a sudden she stopped that. So we figured she knew something why she stopped the coming over.
Yeah, she had to know. You think that's the reason why she's doing all those drugs?
I think so. That's my personal opinion. You know, I can't say. That's why you don't mention their name by name, because all I need is to get a libel still.
That's understandable right there.
Even though it's true, I can't mention them by name.
No, we ain't gonna do that. Get no lawsuit on us. Yeah. But I'm sorry I went through that. And still going through that. Yeah. No kid should have to hold that in, and no kid should be touched in the first place. That's sickening. Yeah.
So like I said, between work pressure and that, and we're told, going to this kind of aneurysm or hemorrhage, that it's caused by pressures, something like that. And so we feel like that they had a part in his death. And that's what my wife feels guilty about or hurt about.
She can't feel that. Well, I know you saying she does, but she didn't know, because if the both of you knew, y'all would have did something about that earlier.
Right.
And you said he told y'all that, how many weeks before?
Just a few weeks before he passed away. He held this in for at least 30 years.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm speechless on that. I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate you listening, and hope some good comes out of this. Like I said, I tried to listen to, I got to listen to almost one of your podcasts already, and stuff. So, like I said, everybody's got their own way of handling things and that. So I think you're doing good, and I appreciate what you're doing and trying to do and help people and talk this out. Like I said, I know my wife wouldn't have been able to. My wife would have broke down before she even said the first word. Like I said, it's very much harder for her than it is for me. For some reason, I can speak a little bit better about it.
Yeah, it's that's why I created this podcast, because parents like us, nobody wants to be in this boat, and we all losing our babies to whatever it is, and all the situations is different. No situation is alike, so that's why I created this, so everybody can come on here and tell how they feel, because don't nobody want to listen to us. And then, like you said, how you advocating, all of us is advocating, and we all, as parents that's going through situations like this, we need to stick together, and we can lean on each other to talk to.
Well, we just don't want our children, we don't want their memory to go. We want people to remember them. Like I said, I know, like in the one podcast I heard with your wife, that she thinks people get tired of listening to it. Well, I don't care what other people think. It's our way of handling it, and handling our grief is us talking it. And that's all. Like I told my wife, I said, don't worry about what other people think. It's, if you want to say something, say something. If you want to wait and just talk with me at home, we've got each other.
And that's exactly how I feel, right there. That you can keep talking about your baby. Just because they don't want you to talk about your baby, that's their business. But we had them kids, so we could talk about them as much as we want to. I thank you for coming on here and telling your story. I know this was a hard story to tell, and it's really shocking. This hurtful. And your wife, I'm gonna be honest with you, just like me and my wife is, we really got. Yeah. And we have to, as husband and wives, we have to stick together and lean on each other, because when the smoke clears and then the funerals is clear and nobody else is there, only person that's really gonna be there for you is your spouse. I know some marriages, they get broken apart, but we're this strong. We all been together like 40 something years. Me and my wife been together almost over 32 years now. So we all we got, and we have to stick together as parents, and that's grieving our babies.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, this concludes another episode of Grieving Our Babies podcast. I'm the host that cares the most, Calvin Hawkins. Until next time, signing off. This concludes tonight's episode of Grieving Our Babies podcast. Come back and join us on this journey of healing. Grieving Our Babies podcast, where your voice matters, your pain is acknowledged, and together we find strength in sharing our stories. Go subscribe to us on YouTube and Instagram at Grieving Our Babies podcast. Remember, you're not alone. We're here with you, listening, understanding, and grieving together. If any parent want to come on the show and tell their story, go to Grieving Our Babies podcast invite@gmail.com. Until then, I'm the host that cares the most, Calvin Hawkins.